It's late at night, and everyone is asleep. You wake up to a sound, and just beyond the veil of sleep, you hear the pitter-patter of little feet. What was that? You look over at the antique bisque doll sitting on top of your dresser. Was it? No, it couldn't have been. Could it? Was the doll taking a stroll while you slept? Our guest, Heather Green, is an expert on haunted dolls and the occult, and how these themes are portrayed in film. Plus, we'll meet some of her dolls and learn which ones are actually inspirited. Today, on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I am Becky.
And I am Diana.
And today, for you, we're going to talk about haunted dolls.
Yet again. Why is this such a popular topic, Becky?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because they're really cool. Oh, yes, I have a bat on my head.
You do?
Yes, this is a gift from Lady Teal of Lady Teal's Curios.
I've had a real bat in my hair.
That sounds unpleasant.
Oh, no, it was adorable.
Okay.
I was in Delphi, and I was watching the sunset over this beautiful gorge, and this little adorable bat just flew right into my hair and snuggled up next to my neck. And it didn't move, because I'd never touched a bat before, so I just let it sit there, and then just flew away. It was so sweet and innocent. And then, 10 years later, a bat got in my house, and I freaked out, and that wasn't...
No.
So it didn't train me to love bats, unfortunately.
Delphine bats don't have rabies because they're actually oracles.
That's probably true.
Well, speaking of adorable things, yes, we're going to be talking about dolls today. We are going to be interviewing Heather Green, who just a delightful person to talk to. She is also a film historian, a doll restorer, a doll historian, all of the things. She also has her own podcast about dolls and hauntings and the occult and movies. Well, speaking of adorable things,
Oh.
we have so much floof in our house.
Are your children getting hairy yet? Do they count or no?
No. I'm talking about the quadrupeds. We have Ella that you guys have seen on this show multiple times. She is
so many times.
She's short hair. And then we have Egon, who is the Kazon puppy, who is just floof.
I think it'd be really cute if you put a corset on him, because he'd have a cinched waist with all that floof.
Oh my God, he would. But the floofmeister that we have is Ripley the cat.
And she was nice to me for the first time ever in my years and years of knowing her.
She's so mean to everybody. She's just like awful, a little asshole. So, I say little. This cat is enormous.
She's a big asshole.
We're still not quite sure what she is. They said cat on the adoption papers.
She's already done 5 figures worth of damage to your house.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let me get started here. Okay, so this cat, first of all, she is very cute.
That's true. She's got that going for her.
Just a gorgeous floofy chonk. Like you pick her up and you can just feel the chonk like warbling under the soft fur. But this cat, I swear, that's all she's got going for her.
She's lovely from a distance.
Yeah, she is mean. You can't snuggle with her, right? Because she'll just like try to bite your nose. And yes, as you mentioned, Diana, she did thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage to our house by peeing on the carpet. She got up on like my son's. First of all, she was peeing in his trash can.
Which seems impossible. If she can do that, she can pee in the toilet.
She won't pee in the toilet. She won't pee in the litter box.
But
And it's not out of spite. Like, this poor cat.
Sure.
I mean, she did use the trash can. She's like, well, it's waste. We removed the trash can because the cleaning ladies, like, freaked out when they saw it. They're like, which one of your children did this? And I'm like, the fuzzy one? And so then she was, like, backing her butt up to the wall behind the dresser and peeing down the wall and onto the floor. And of course we kept like, there was a smell in the room. We couldn't find it. And it wasn't until we moved the dresser out and we realized it had soaked all the way through the subfloor. The floor is just completely ruined. We have to rip out all of the carpet, put in hardwoods upstairs. Yeah, that was not cheap. I've started teaching violin and I got some like nice flyers printed, and somehow, okay, this cat has no opposable thumb. She's not like a Hemingway.
Not a polydactyl cat.
But somehow she managed to get a hold of those flyers, drag them like 50 feet to the other end of the basement and then took a big old dump on them. I'm like, why do we keep this cat? I'm at my wit's end. So Sean Nigro, if you remember him from the Writer's Block podcast and 8 Sparks Media, he's also a children's book author, and he's commissioned me to do some illustrations for him. And
Ooh, another one? Yay! I'll put the link in the show notes, the one you already illustrated, a boy and his fish.
cool, thank you. I went out and bought a very, very expensive set of blendable colored pencils to do some of the pre-work. Well, that's the thing. This cat loves
That's
pencils.
right.
She likes to play fetch with them.
She adores pencils.
She'll like stand at the top of the stairs and fling them downstairs and then chase them and come back up and fetch them. Or you can throw a pencil for her. I've lost paintbrushes this way. I have to hide all of my art supplies, not just for my daughter, but for my cat.
From all of your offspring.
Yesterday we come out and the dog, my husband's like, what's the dog eating?
Oh, no.
Yep. You could barely see like crimson as the color. Both ends of the pencil were, it was just a tiny little gnawed up stick left. You could just barely tell what it had been.
The good news is, when your dog poops crimson, you won't have to worry that he's bleeding to death.
Yeah, that's created another issue today. We're going to have to do some scrubbing. Did I mention all the floof? I know what's happening because the cat hates the dog. So she is leaving pencils where he will get to them, where he will eat them, where he will get sick from them. It's all a plan she's got.
She is evil.
I go back and I'm like, okay, where did the pencil go? And my husband's like, you better put up all your pencils. So I went in the dining room and I started putting them up and I was like, okay, I know I had 72 to begin with. I can count and see how many are missing.
Yeah.
I thought maybe 1 or 2. There were 11 pencils missing.
Ripley.
We're in the house. We don't really leave the house. We're in the house because we work from home. So it's not like she had a lot of opportunity to just like walk by us with 11 pencils in her mouth and have us not notice.
You would have heard it because there's a wood floor in the dining room. So as she batted it off the table, it would have definitely clunk.
You would have thought, yeah.
Mysterious.
So I looked and I looked. I looked for hours. She had them all stashed away.
And plus your old paintbrushes and pens and pencils.
No. Those are long gone. It was just the pencils.
Oh,
it was
okay.
just the pencils.
She finds a new hiding spot for every stash. Oh my
I guess
gosh.
so.
What a resourceful cat.
Can you imagine how much work it must have taken for her to like one by one take these pencils out of their case and take them upstairs and put them in a pile behind the door of my daughter's bedroom.
Well, Becky, you know what they say, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's how your cat feels.
She's destroyed our floors. She's destroyed my art supplies. She's destroying the dog's intestine.
Poor dog.
I can't boot her out, though. She is
Exactly.
my child.
It's like a haunted mirror. You just can't sell it. You can't get rid of it. Why would anybody be willing to take your cat if that's the description right there?
Cute pimps on everything, and we'll steal your art supplies.
We can no longer afford this cat. $20,000 adoption fee just to cover expenses.
This is the thing, like, when you see free kitten, there's no such thing as a free kitten.
There's no such thing as a free kitten. Oh.
But maybe Hainted Loves, maybe one of you could just give us a little piece of advice. What do I do with this cat besides just open the door?
Yes.
Before we go any farther, speaking of our Hainted Loves, we have a new patron to give a shout out to.
Who is it? Who is it? Tell me. Who is it?
Huge shout out to Sharon. Sharon has joined our Patreon, and we are so grateful for you, Sharon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon, and welcome.
Welcome to the weirdness. Aren't you glad you joined?
Come and play with us forever and ever and ever and ever.
Maybe Sharon has some advice for us.
Sharon, if you can help, if you're a cat whisperer, please get in touch. Any cat whisperers listening, please get in touch. And while you're at it, be like Sharon and join our Patreon, because it's awesome. And you get all this interesting stuff, plus commercial-free episodes, unlike this one.
Oh man, I had a rough day.
What happened, honey?
I was out with the guys and they
And?
they said I wasn't spooky enough.
Oh, honey, how could they say that to you? You're hella spooky.
You think so?
Of course. After all, you came up with the ectoplasm being ghost jizz theory, and you've been scratched by more horny ghosts than anyone else I know.
Well, I suppose you're right.
But if you're really worried about it, I have just the thing.
Oh, wow! A spooky AF t-shirt?
That's right. Our Spooky AF line comes in shirt, sweatshirt, pillow, and even a high-quality mug.
Man, those are super awesome, especially for something with profanity on it.
What's even better, all these items were hand-lettered exclusively for Homespun Hates by world-renowned calligrapher Nikki Malik.
Holy ghostly cannoli, that's amazing.
From now on, whenever you brandish your Spooky AF gear, no one will accuse you of being boring.
Yeah, I'm Spooky AF.
Visit homespunhates.com for all Spooky AF merchandise. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
And I'm Diana.
Today on the show, we are thrilled to bring on Heather Green. I met Heather at Mystic South in 2024. She was giving an amazing presentation on dolls. She loves all things dolls. She restores them. She collects them. She knows everything about the history of them. And of course, she knows everything about the hauntings of dolls. So Heather, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. You know I love to talk about dolls, so I'm happy to do that with both of you.
But dolls aren't the only thing that you're a scholar in. You also have a book out, Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which is all about how witches are portrayed in the film industry. How does that relate to dolls, or are they just both two obsessions of yours? How does that all fit together?
I don't know that they do fit together outside of Chucky and Annabelle, of course. There's always overlap, you know? But I have always loved dolls, just like I've always loved movies. You know, I can't say that they correspond outside of just being two obsessions, as you said. I grew up watching movies, loving movies, and then studied them in college. So I do have, I am a film historian. I have degrees in film history. You add the occult in, and I told someone this weekend when I was talking about haunted dolls, I said, if you can find an obsession that's not occult related and make it occult related, your magic becomes more powerful and it's just more joyous.
Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned also that you have loved dolls your entire life. So I am assuming then maybe you even collected them as a child.
I think my parents collected them for me as a child, probably. But yes, I did. And as soon as I had the opportunity myself, when I got to college, I even had my dolls out in my first apartment on a little shelf, mostly from my childhood, and then began collecting Barbies. Eventually, I did sell off a lot of those. I don't have a whole lot of that collection left, but I have since, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, started a collection again, and then of course started restoring and all kinds of other things, and it kind of took off and took on its own life.
What's the oldest doll that you have?
That's a really good question, because there's a couple I haven't dated yet, but the oldest doll that I have that I've finished restoring, who sits in my collection, is these two, and this one right here. We call her Peekaboo.
Their eyes go up and down?
Yeah, yes, they do. But I can't, it's hard to show you. There we go.
Yeah.
And she's a bisque German doll, and she has a composition jointed body. So sometime in the 1800s, German and French industry makers started to make jointed dolls, which were more fun to play with. This is the best part. This creeps everybody out. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Well, if those who are not watching won't see it, but what I'm doing is putting her hands over her eyes. Peekaboo.
Gotcha.
But that's the function of it. They started to make them jointed so children can have more realistic play with them.
Yeah.
So she's probably from 1880 or 1890.
Okay.
And she's in pretty good condition. She's got her original dress
Wow.
and everything. So she right now is the oldest one that I have that I know of. There's a couple other jointed ones in the back I don't have the exact date on yet.
Wow.
But that's Peekaboo.
Nice.
Do you restore the dolls in your own home? Do you have like a studio that you work from?
Yes, I do. I have, we've converted our garage into an art room because we have several artists in our house.
Nice.
And so we have portion of it is the doll restore area. And the other portion is the fine art studio. So we do have that in our garage. I also am lucky enough to have my partner is an industrial artist and has a massive shop and studio with all the tools.
Nice.
And so whenever I need anything a little bit more unique or different, or I need some help, he's always ready to step in and assist.
Before we talk about the dolls that you have that are haunted, I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned in your lecture, which is, and I've mentioned this on the show several times since I found that really influential, what you said, that dolls themselves aren't haunted, except maybe with the exceptions of Robert the Doll and Annabelle and some of those like really, 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 I guess, haunted dolls. But rather they have portals within them. Am I getting that right? Is that how you described it?
Yeah, that's how I understand it, and that's how I perceive it, is that every doll can be what we know of as haunted. In fact, most dolls do contain some energy, even if it's just from the factory.
Okay.
And I differentiate between inspirited and ensouled when we're talking about haunted dolls. If you remember from the workshop, the inspirited dolls that, for example, like my little Peekaboo, has been around for 100+ years, has pulled in all the energy from hugs and stuff. So they can get a really intense haunted-like feeling, even though they aren't a portal for a spirit.
Okay.
So you have that, and then you have those that actually are ensouled, the ones that actually are a portal for a spirit. Okay. And like you said, it's a portal. It's not a box. A doll can be a box, but 99% of time, I believe, and I haven't looked at every haunted doll there is, but they're more of a portal, a place that a spirit has attached itself to that comes through from where it is. And they come through it. So when you hear the pitter-patter of little feet across the floor, from a spirit that might be coming through a doll, it's not the actual doll. It's not the physical doll that's making the pitter-patter. Oh. It's the spirit coming through the doll making the pitter-patter.
Okay.
Now, I am not a paranormal investigator, and again, I have not seen every single doll that's haunted. However, this is my experience, and I have spoken to a number of other spirit workers and paranormal investigators that work with dolls that do agree with that concept. That's not to say that there aren't dolls out there that are more like spirit boxes, but most dolls are not. They're portals. Okay. They're a place that the spirit attaches to that can come through to communicate with you or to do what it needs to do in this life.
Got it.
So, my haunted doll back here, she is recently moved to my office. She's behind me. And if you can see, the clown above her is pointing to her. She has a white bib and a dark dress. She is the portal for a woman who used to restore dolls who passed. Her name was Mary, so I call the doll Mary. Uh-huh. And she was living out of my office in the main room, but she's since moved in here and is much happier in here. We have less spirit disturbances now.
I see. So what kind of disturbances did you have when she was out there?
Mary the doll loved to play Forza 5 on the Xbox. Basically, we've had encounters with Mary. She has come upstairs to our living room and given us messages. I use tarot to communicate with spirits, so we've had some communication with her, and she just wants to make sure her dolls, many of which I inherited, including the one that she's using as a portal, are okay. So it's a very positive, she's a very positive spirit, just kind of watching over. But the location where she was in was right behind our video game setup that has a driving wheel. And so on occasion, my son would be sitting down near it doing his thing, and all of a sudden the wheel would start to, calibrate or something, but the power's off and nobody's near it, and you can't, it just all of a sudden we're good. And so she was trying to play, I think, after watching everything. So I said, I have a spirit that likes Forza 5, but that has not happened since she's moved in here.
Okay.
She just wanted to be here where the action takes place, I think. This is my office where I work. I'm an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide, where I do podcasts, and my weekly podcast, she's now on that, which she absolutely loves, probably. So she's getting a little more of a different type of action.
Well, since you brought it up, tell us about your podcast.
Sure. The Witches Movie Coven is 9 o'clock Eastern Time every Wednesday, and we talk about movies from a witch's perspective. So everybody on there identifies in some way as a witch or occult practitioner. There's 5 of us, and it's live.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you get to be in the chat, and we respond to the people in the chat. We have lots of regulars that are wonderful. And in fact, talking about dolls, one of my co-hosts is Patty Negri, who's a well-known paranormal investigator, medium, psychic, witch. And her book, which I did the foreword for, is called Dollcraft.
Awesome.
She talks about puppet magic and dolls, and she is a co-lover of dolls. We could probably talk for hours and hours, she and I on the phone about her collection and our love of dolls. But this is coming out in June this year.
Now, I understand that she actually does have a haunted doll, correct?
Yes, I don't know how her doll is haunted, but she has Belle, and Belle is also on the podcast. She sits right behind Patty, just like Mary does. Mary and Belle may have a tea party at some point. We're hoping to
Get them together.
The haunted doll tea party. Yeah, we're hoping to get them together. But I don't know exactly whether Belle is a portal or whether the spirit's trapped in Belle. That's a conversation with Patty, so I don't know.
Other than your experiences with Mary, do you have personal experiences with hauntings in general that, kind of have led you into this world that you would like to share with us?
I've always been sensitive, not to spirits in terms of ghosts, like what we know as ghosts, but to the energy, and which is what led me to witchcraft and the occult to begin with, to know that there's something else more. And I've always had this sense that there was, but over the past 5-6 years, I've become increasingly interested in this practice as more than just the natural things that I do in my witchcraft. And this really got set off when my partner's mother decided she was going to show up.
Oh.
I realized maybe I really like this. I'm very interested in this work, and then also getting involved in dolls, and again blending those two. It's pulling at me to do more work with spirits and ghosts. And one day we were sitting there and the TV started going on and off. We weren't having any electrical storms or anything, and we realized at that point, I started to do communication and realized it was my partner's mother. And she shows up randomly. We get a little whiff of cigarettes, and nobody in the house smokes. We get a little whiff of coffee at 3 p.m, and nobody drinks coffee in our house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Or a TV will go on, or an electric candle will go on. We know that it's her. And, we say hi and welcome. Do you have something to say? I always check to see if she has a message. A lot of the time, she's just checking in on him.
Aww.
Okay.
And he was one of 10 children, and she was very nurturing. And I think she still pops around checking on her children every once in a while. She is not attached to a doll. She just pops in. It's very fun. And, after talking about her right now, she'll probably show up later.
Awesome. You mentioned several times communication is key. What form of communication do you use?
Tarot is what I use most often. I find that to be very effective for me. I think if you're getting into this work at all, whether it's for witchcraft or for paranormal investigation beginnings, you have to start with something simple and something that you're comfortable with. You can't jump into using tarot if you've never used the tarot before, because there's a system to it. Oracle is a little easier. Of course, using yes, no, like the pendulum. I have used pendulum. One of my children is beginning to get into this and loves the dowsing rods, and will use those. Yes, no is the easiest if you're getting started. So there's a number of ways to do that. And sometimes intuition, it's the best of all. I mean, all of these methodologies, all of these modalities need your intuition to begin with. You have to learn to trust that. And then you need to pick a modality that's comfortable for you and practice, and just let the spirit come. Let the messages come. And they will. It's really, really fun.
Does your partner's siblings, have they mentioned that their mom has popped in too?
Yeah, a couple of them who are more open to it and sensitive to it have noticed things.
Yeah.
We definitely have had some things with the other siblings as well.
Cool. That's nice to know that she's visiting everybody.
Now, I will say that our Peekaboo right here, just getting back to the portal thing, portal versus energy, is that this doll right here, and I'm holding her and I can feel her energy, has very, very intense energy. extremely intense energy, which is one of the reasons she creeps everybody out, because even though you don't sense it as energy, you can't name it. Everybody that sees her can sense it. She has, I would not be surprised that at some point a spirit comes through her.
Yeah.
It may not be, it may just be she's been loved and tossed around and been in a lot of families. But right now, as far as I can tell, she'd be a primary target to become a portal. I don't know what she's looking at. She's looking at Clarabelle.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Speaking of Clarabelle,
Yes.
Clarabelle is your Annabelle lookalike. She's a Raggedy Ann. Can we see her?
She's right here. Yes, she's right here.
When I was a kid, I had a doll that looked like that, but with brown hair. Is that the same basic idea or the same company? Yeah.
She's Raggedy Ann. Raggedy Ann always has red hair, but a rag doll's a rag doll.
Okay.
I mean, you might have just had a
knockoff.
One. Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah, Raggedy Ann is red hair.
So that was the exact same model as the classic Annabelle doll, the one that you've got there.
Yes. Many people who are not do not follow haunted dolls in truth, they think that the Annabelle in the movies is what Annabelle actually looked
Right.
like, and that is untrue. That Annabelle is a rag doll that looks exactly like this, and she's right now in a box, locked up because she. Oops, there we go. Because she is very dangerous, like Robert the doll.
Right.
And so she's behind glass I think in Connecticut is where I think she's locked up.
All right.
But yeah, this doll I got for my haunted doll lectures to show people that the real Annabelle is actually just a simple rag doll. And we named her Clarabelle. And she was able to go on to a pagan convention this weekend and got lots of hugs. So she's filled with positive energy.
good.
She's not going to hurt anybody. But she is not haunted.
She looks sweet.
She is.
I had one too. I had a Raggedy Ann and a Raggedy Andy, which I don't hear too much about the Raggedy Andys, but I guess they were a thing too.
I think I had one as well. I remember too, but again, I think mine were a
You had the
different brand or
knockoffs.
something because they had dark hair.
She was like Annabelle was in the factory and created sometime in the 60s.
Okay.
So exact replica of her.
Right.
And so yeah, she's been well loved, and she got some big hugs this weekend.
Nice.
I read in a book about Japanese doll culture. An anthropologist talked to a little girl about her doll and the doll culture in Japan and why they believe dolls can become inspirited or ensouled. And she said, well, if you love it enough, it will come to life. I love that. I love that concept, because if you love it enough and you could actually become inspirited in a positive way. It can become ensouled in a positive way. And so you wind up, I'm going to put her back right here. So you wind up with understanding why dolls are filled with these positive energy. Even if they don't actually wind up with a spirit attached to them, they are filled with energy, and that's what you're sensing from her.
So it feels like humans have some control over the fate of their dolls. If you bought a brand new doll for your child, took it out of the packaging, what would you do to ensure that it was full of love and not able to become a portal for evil in some way? Like how do you take action with a brand new doll to make sure that it just stays an innocent doll?
Well, if you want it to just be a doll and just a toy, you just love it. In the Japanese folkloric belief, the way you treat it is how the doll will end.
Okay.
So if you treat it poorly, it's going to fill with negative energy. If you love it enough, it will become alive, as the little girl says. If you love it enough, it will be filled with positive energy and the blend. And, you're not going to hug a doll every 2 hours or whatever,
Sure,
you have practical lives. But that's the concept. It's the filling of that energy, and whatever energy you fill it with will be there. It'll remain a cup, a cauldron for that kind of energy.
Okay.
How to keep it from becoming a portal for a spirit? Protection methods.
Okay.
The idea that a doll could potentially become evil, it's so rare. So I don't worry about that. The whole Chucky lore, it's fun, it's great. There are a few dolls that are problematic, but the chance of a doll getting a spirit that's going to come at you with a meat cleaver, there are way worse things in our world to worry about than that. I wouldn't worry about it. If you truly have anxiety about it, you can. I actually make little obsidian bracelets for dolls, which you can put on. If a doll is starting to act funny, you can surround it in salt. You can protection on yourself. There are things you can do, but the chances of a doll becoming evil are very rare.
Do you have any theories as to why those dolls that are purported to be the most evil dolls, Robert and Annabelle, etc., how did they end up the way that they were?
I think that the doll can become a portal in the way anything can become an object of obsession for a spirit. It's not about the doll so much as it is about what the spirit wants to accomplish or why the spirit. So the question is, why is the spirit here? It's not why is it attached to the doll. And then the doll just becomes a convenient usage. So a child, for example, that dies unexpectedly might then use their own doll.
Oh, okay.
Because that's their connection which is part of Robert's situation. Not entirely Robert's situation, but part of Robert's situation. There's a doll in Japan that's similar. The child whose doll it was died unexpectedly, and then they used the doll as their pathway in, and that's why it's a portal. They're connected to that already. Another way great for ancestor work. For example, a grandmother might use their doll that their now granddaughter has as a way in to communicate. So it's sort of a link to life, a link to their life, or it's a link to someone they want to communicate with, or a place. If a doll is in a place they want to inhabit, they might use a doll that's in that place. So it's no different than anything else, whether it's just a teacup or a
Right. Dolls may be particularly prone to this just because A, they're anthropomorphic, and B, they do receive all of this energy from a child's love.
Yeah. They're important to us, so why not, right? If a spirit's trying to make an impression, why not?
Because somebody's treating this object like a human. Like, children act as though their doll is a real human that they're talking to. That must be an experience for a spirit who hasn't been spoken to like a real human in 100 years or however long.
Yeah, and that may be another reason that they do it. I mean, I think the question again goes back to, what does the spirit want?
Sure.
There's a common horror movie trope about dolls that you will dispose of a doll that's problematic and the doll just keeps coming back. And you keep... Is there any truth to this lore?
Well, yeah, that's Annabelle. They keep throwing her out and she keeps coming back. I think Hollywood, what Hollywood does with witchcraft and the paranormal when they're representing it is they take something that's difficult to understand or project and make it literal. So when they say a doll is coming back, they're going to actually make it literal because they're doing it's a short period of time. They've got to tell a story. It's more creepy if the doll actually is burned and then walks out of the fire and shows back up in your living room. If you burn most of these dolls, you are not going to have that doll come back. That's just not going to happen. But what can happen, and now this is what I was telling folks this weekend in my workshop, is that just because you have destroyed or thrown out the doll doesn't mean the spirit's gone, because it's a portal.
Right.
So what can come back is the spirit. Ridding yourself of the doll, the body, is not necessarily ridding yourself of a problem.
Yeah, I would worry that the spirit would attach to something else if I destroyed its home.
There you go.
And while it was in my house.
Right. If it's using a doorway, closing the door and shutting the door and locking it isn't necessarily going to make the spirit not come and want to knock somewhere else.
Sure.
Right.
And so if you're really experiencing, I have one slide in my presentation say, so my doll tried to kill me as the title. If you are really experiencing a problem with a spirit, whether it's attached to a doll or attached to anything, you need to have a professional paranormal investigator that you know is legit, that can come in, that has the experience to handle it. Because, like I said, ridding yourself of the thing it's attached to is not going to necessarily rid you. So the doll itself may not come back, but the spirit may come back, which is what Hollywood's suggesting, but quite literally. The doll comes back. Annabelle, they keep throwing her out. She keeps coming back.
Right.
It's a little scary. In one of the books that I've worked on as an editor, called Unquiet Voices, by Rob and Noni Douglas. And I highly recommend this to anyone who really wants to dive into paranormal investigation from an occult perspective. Not witchcraft, but an occult perspective. It's really in-depth, great for the beginner, as well as people who are changing the way they work with it, similar to the way what I'm doing. But they stress this as well, is that do not do anything. If it's something's dangerous, do not do anything that you're uncomfortable with or not experienced with.
Right.
Get somebody to help.
Yeah. Well, that goes for anything, not just in the occult.
Yeah.
Don't run a chemistry experiment unless you know what you're doing.
Plumbing, electric work, yeah.
So I had a situation where I had acquired some dolls because people just send them to us. And Diana and I are in different states. Diana's in Tulsa. I'm here in Atlanta. So Diana was visiting and she was staying in my basement. And I had the dolls in the room that I'm in now before it was refinished. And both her and my husband at various points throughout this period saw, like, the light was in this room and they saw what looked like a shadow of little feet walking by under the door. So are you saying that wasn't physically the doll getting up and moving? That was the spirit somehow?
I'm guessing. I'm guessing it was the spirit that was causing that, not the doll's feet. I mean, it's using the reflection of the doll. It's using the energy of the doll to create that, but it's not the actual doll. I'm sure if you went in there, the doll was probably still sitting exactly where you put it.
Yeah.
And that's when people say, well, it's not haunted. You're making this up because the doll actually hasn't moved. I've never had a doll come and hop up on the couch next to me. Mary doesn't move. Yeah. Mary's right there. If people say they have said, I sense Mary moving, it's the energy, it's the spirit that's circling or coming in and out of her. You know, I'm saying that now. Watch tomorrow, I'll be like calling you guys back. Guess what? Mary just drove my car off.
Right? Keeping a really close eye on her right now, just in case she waves.
She realized she could turn the Xbox on herself.
But yeah, it's usually just the spirit. Now, again, I am not a paranormal investigator, so that's a really good question to ask for people who have gone and seen lots and lots of dolls and other types of things to see. This is from my perspective and my experience with dolls. I have over 1,500 dolls in my house right now in various states of restoration, and I also resell them. So I have from new to modern, and all of them are filled with energy because they're all old dolls that I take in. None of them have moved by themselves, but they all have energy floating around them. So things do shift and change with them, especially as they interact with each other, and they speak to me as spirit and energy speaks to you. And of course, then there's Mary and Peekaboo and others. So that's my experience with dolls.
Another thing that I learned from listening to you is that there's certain plastic dolls that will develop a toxic mold over time, correct?
Yes.
And you have to be very, very careful when you restore them.
That's a bad kind of haunting.
Tell us about that so people can avoid that. If anybody out there decides they want to be an amateur doll restorer.
Yeah, if you're restoring dolls, even if you're not restoring dolls, if you want to buy an old doll because you either are hoping for a haunted doll or you just want to collect an old doll or for whatever purposes, use it for magic, old dolls are wonderful for that. If you pick one of them up and it smells like what I call cheese vomit, you've got... Yeah, that's a demon of a different sort. You have a doll that's filled with mold. And what that is plastics don't last forever. And eventually the plastics start to emit chemicals. They start to break down. And for other reasons, the metals that are resting inside these dolls interact with those plastics that they break down. And so as that happens, certain types of mold can form. And there's different types of mold, and for different reasons, whether it's the interaction with the metal, whether it's the breaking down, the mold's feeding off the breaking down the plastic. Sometimes they look like they have a white coating over them in patches. Sometimes it's dark gray, greenish dark gray. It's very toxic. When I get one of these dolls, I have to treat it very carefully. I have to demold it, and I have ways of doing it, but there are dolls that just are too far gone, and it's not worth it. And I've had to unfortunately throw those out. But I have saved a few dolls, but again, they don't last forever. If you have an American Girl doll, for example, some of the 90s ones are already breaking down. I haven't seen a moldy one, plastic mold anyway, but they start to look yellow. Or their vinyl starts to change color. A lot of dolls from the 70s also, you might notice your old dolls, you pull them out and they have their skin tone in places is yellow. That's the plastic breaking down and distorting.
Whoa.
They're not meant to last forever. This girl right here, I'm going to show you. This is Gladys. She was born in 1906. And she's made of bisque. And they stopped using bisque because it was so breakable. The girls would throw it and it'd crack and break. But it turns out she's 100 and something years old and looks perfect still.
Yeah.
Whereas newer dolls that are of these plastics, not so much, not lasting as long.
Wow.
Composition I have a composition doll. I'll show you.
Those are the ones that look cracked, right? Over time?
Yes. I have one I haven't restored yet. I just got her. She's composition. This is not a very good example of crazing, which is the cracking, but what happens with them is that the material is made out of a pulped wood and glue that's mashed together and formed into the doll's shape and then coated and painted. So if moisture gets inside, they start to expand, causing all the cracks, the famous cracks that make it look like a haunted doll.
Ah, okay, gotcha. The crazing is just from the wood pulp expanding with wetness.
That's all it is. It's not because it's haunted. You know, I always say just because a doll looks like it's haunted doesn't mean it is haunted. In fact, there's so many fabulous haunted looking dolls that are probably not haunted. There was just some artist having fun trying to make a Halloween doll. But yeah, so it turns out these older dolls out of this bisque material, if they haven't been broken, they're actually the longest lasting because eventually plastic breaks down.
This has been a very enlightening and entertaining, fun conversation. Thank you so much, Heather, for coming on the show and talking about all of these not quite haunted and yet not quite not haunted situations.
I have loved this conversation. I loved your workshop that you did. Heather, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad that we got to do this. I just want to make sure everybody knows where they can find you. Your website is heathergreen.net. You have your articles on there. You have links to where people can purchase your book. Are there any other places that you would like people to go look you up?
Sure. My website is a good starting point. A lot of my articles are found on Religion News Service and Religion Unplugged. I am a journalist as well in this area. And I am on the board of Mystic South. So I'm always at Mystic South doing one thing or the other. So please come and visit us in Atlanta in July. That would be super fun. And every Wednesday at the Witches Movie Coven at 9 p.m. Eastern, we're on YouTube and Facebook. We're live and talking about movies. We do every type of movie, horror and fantasy and everything that has magic in it. So that's another place you can find me. And I'm on the socials.
And those socials you can find on your website too.
Absolutely.
Heather, again, thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And Haunted Loves, what do you think? If you had a doll in your house that you knew something was coming through, what would you do with it? Other than have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.